Okay, so we're live. Welcome back to the Magic Minds podcast. I'm at Burke. How are you all getting on? Happy Pride weekend. Hope you all had a good Pride weekend. I hope you enjoyed our last show. It's a pity we didn't have the show this week because of the week that was in it. It's Pride week. But look, I've got loads of feedback about it. People really enjoyed it. It was really touching, as I thought people would really get. Dr. Carl, he's a really, really lovely guy. It was a great conversation. It just makes it all normal, you know. So it was lovely to talk to an expert around that, and it tied into the whole Pride weekend, which was brilliant. One thing I would, I'll come back to this. Sorry about the camera. I had it on narrow view. A few people were on to me about saying that the quality of the picture, and there was a black line around it. Again, I had another absolute meltdown with the camera. I pressed something that I shouldn't have, and I had to bring it back to Kev, the technical legend, and he sorted it out for me. So hopefully it's a bit better this week. Actually, a listener, a friend of mine, has said he might be able to help us with a camera for the show. So we might have a different setup, and that'll be another fucking adaptation I'll have to get used to, and I'm sure I'll make a balls of that as well. But sure, we'll get there in the end. That's the moral of the story. I was going to say something to you there. Oh, something that just sprung to my mind, and it was on Will St. Leger. Will St. Leger was on the show with us a while back, and he's involved in the whole campaigning and activists around AIDS and HIV, and he put up a post there from where are they from? Let me have a look. The HPSC, and it gives the statistics around sexually transmitted diseases, and this is absolutely alarming. 146 cases of chlamydia a week, 54 cases of gonorrhea, 19 syphilis, and 16 cases of HIV a week in Ireland. Fuck me, that is an epidemic. That is shocking. Look, I don't know how we solve this. I'm sure educational skills, talking about it, protecting ourselves. You know, if you have kids, if you're a family member, just remind them, you know, if they're single or even if they're not single, just protect yourself. I don't know what the demographics of this is. I don't know if it's young males, young females, transgender, LGBTQ, heterosexual, so whatever. I don't know. I actually don't know the statistics. It's shocking, but it is affecting Irish human beings, and that's something that we need to look at. So yeah, have a look. Go check HBSE. They're on Twitter. They're on Instagram as well, and follow it. You know, and we don't hear anything about this in the news. You know, we hear about road safety. We hear about using your seatbelt. We hear about drink driving, obesity, fucking disease, whatever, but we don't hear about this. Why is this? Why are we not talking about sexually transmitted diseases? Has Ireland gone backwards? This should be on the front page. This is bananas, absolutely bananas. I just couldn't get over it. 16 cases of HIV. I know it's not like a death sentence anymore, but come with that is a stigma. There's a stigma attached to having HIV. There's a stigma attached to any kind of diverse groups, whether it be or also mental health, your sexuality. You know, this is nuts. Why are we not talking about this? So there, look, that's a rant over. I was just shocked by that. Hopefully we can bring some awareness around it, and people can mind their own behaviour and look out for family members, or if they're kids or brother or sister, whatever. Yeah. So that's my little rant over about sexually transmitted diseases. On the show today, I have psychotherapist, transaction analysis expert, Dr. Jason Brennan. Or Jason Brennan, he's not a doctor, but I don't think he is. But he wrote this book also with co-author Brent Pope. Win Proven Strategies for Success in Sport, Life and Mental Health. It's a fantastic book. He's a fantastic guy. He's an active practitioner in psychotherapy and transactional analysis. I love transactional analysis. I had actually forgot excuse me, I had forgot that it was something that he talked about when he done a talk in the hospital that I work in, the National Rehabilitation Hospital. I forgot he talked about that, and it was only during the interview we brought it up, and I was like, fuck, I forgot about that, and I love it. It's something that I'm really passionate about, and I read a bit on it. But he's an active, Jesus, I'm losing my words today. He's an active psychotherapist. So he has a website. I'll add the links to that, and then also he has the book, and I would highly recommend him. And I don't say that lightly. I've been around many a psychotherapist, psychiatrist, counselling psychologist. So when I recommend somebody, I know and I know. You know when you know. My BPP, behavioral propensity profile, is open. I use a lot of emotional terms and language, so I pick up on these things, and I pick up on when somebody is authentic around that kind of profession. Some people are in it just for the profession and the money, but he is genuinely interested in humanity. He's genuinely interested in the well-being of people. He was very generous with his time. He was very generous with his knowledge. This is a fantastic book, and if that's something that you would like to avail of a service like that, I would definitely recommend you checking him out. As I say, we'll put his he has a website and a practice in town. We'll put up his contact details, and I would also recommend checking this book out. It's fantastic. Yeah, as I talk about in the interview, it's very simplistic. It's very easy to apply. There's not too much jargon. There's lots of visualization. There's lots of other hints and tips and mental health skills that you can pick up from it. It's brilliant. So we talk about stress. We talk about using mental skills to help you around stress, and then using these strategies then to become successful in life, sport, mental health, whatever way you want it. They're all transferable, and there's loads of experiential experience, whether that be from his own practice, from the sports people. He worked with tons himself and Bren Pope. They've worked with tons of high profile sports people, and it's all documented in here. Their insights and experiences all in here, and he shared it with me in the interview. So it was a fantastic interview. Hopefully you will really enjoy it. Myself and Aaron were over in his house, and it was just brilliant. With the two of us came away from it, we were absolutely buzzing. I could have talked for hours. I didn't get lost in the conversation, but we have to try keep it under an hour, because people lose their attention after an hour apparently, and so we try keep the interviews with under an hour. So that's that interview. We've got a few cracking ones coming up. We've Atuli Mitra from the Buddhist Centre. I have my friend and colleague Dr. Trassa Kenny coming up next. She's an absolute gem. We're talking about all sorts of inequalities and mediation. It's a brilliant interview, and I hope you really enjoy it. As always, I'll thank my sponsor, Noel Riley from Rooney Media, and Jamie do fantastic work helping us out with the podcast. We're also looking into starting our website. We really want to get the website off the ground. Why do I want to get a website off the ground? Because there's tons of content that I want to put out that I can't put out just on this. I want to bring in guest writers to do stuff on mental health, spirituality, nutrition, training, because not everybody listens to podcasts. Some people like to read, they like to dip in and dip out. So we're having the website there. People can go on, check out our stuff, check out our blogs. I'll put up some posts I wrote when I was back doing my degree on nutrition and health, and so we can throw there. I wanted to be a bit of a melting pot, just like the podcast. I want to be something for everyone. We've also linked back in with the charity Shannon Hopeline. I would like to put them as our supports going forward. An absolutely amazing resource in the Liberties in the Dublin 8 area, mental health awareness, suicide prevention, low cost counselling therapy. So yeah, we were going to be linking back in with those guys, and they'll be at the end of our show notes if you want to check out those services. So I think that's it for now. Let you listen to the interview. As always, mind your little self, practice self-compassion, be kind to yourself, say nice things to yourself, say the things to yourself that you would say to a friend or a family member or a pet. Treat yourself with the same kindness and compassion, and you will then be able to radiate and give that out to the world. Okay, so enjoy the interview, and I will talk to you all soon. Have a fantastic day. Take care. Oh, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, all the podcasts, whatever way where you want to find us. Subscribe, send us comments, send us feedback. It doesn't have to be positive. It can just be anything. If you have any interest in a show that you'd like us to do, or if you have anyone that you would like to recommend. I'm looking at a couple of shows at the moment that I'd like to do. I'd like to do something on autism. I would definitely love to do stuff on IVF, couples. I have a friend of mine that we used to go to school together. He's an absolute legend of a lad. Sound. He's been regularly listening to the podcast. He's going to come on maybe and talk about him and his girlfriend's journey through the whole IVF process. And that is a difficult, that's, just like mental health, just like disabilities, there's a lot of stigma around that as well. And he's going to come on. I'd love to talk to him and her and what it's like for him as a man and her as a woman. And hopefully that there'll be some learning in that for other couples that are out there that are hoping to go through it or have been through it. Or if you're a person that may be judging somebody who've done that, and then you listen to this, and it's always when we hear people's stories that we don't dehumanize them. We go, oh, fuck, that must be difficult for you. But when we don't, we kind of go, oh, we make judgments. I do it all the time. But it's only when we connect with people and understand their hurt or the struggles that they have, we can understand what it's like at a human level. So right, that's it. Rant over. Enjoy the interview, and I will talk to you all later. Okay, so we're live. Welcome back to the Magic Minds podcast. I'm Matt Burke. On the show today, I'm joined by author Jason Brennan. Jason, how's it going?
I'm good, Matt. I'm good. Great to be here. Thanks.
I'm absolutely delighted to have you on the podcast. Excellent.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for making the time. And thanks for all the great stuff you've been saying as well. I saw the little kind of intro you did to this, I think it was a week ago or something like that. And when you were reading the book, I was really, really chuffed, actually. Yeah, I think you called the book Savage. So
I promise you that's a compliment.
No, I love it. I love being back in Ireland again with all these great terms we have that are not kind of used much else.
Deadly means good. Brutal means good.
It can be good as well.
Yeah, brutal. Deadly, brutal, sick. Yeah.
And of course, we use the F-bomb all the time in many different ways. Often good, some not so good.
Yeah, it's you can use all sorts of the Irish language, can't you?
Yeah, the way we use it.
Yeah.
Is having traveled and having lived in lots of other places in the world, we're fairly unique with how we can use language and get our message across.
Because I used to work with a couple of English lads on the building site, and they couldn't get over the way I used to use deadly and brutal in the same. They're like, what do you actually mean? There's another few other things now I won't say them here, but they couldn't get it.
What gets people thinking, eh?
Yeah. I've asked Jason to come on the show because Jason is the author of the book. This book here, it's called Win: Proven Strategies for Success in Sport, Mental Health and Life.
Yeah, it's a big kind of lofty title. Do you know what's funny, actually? If I had a do-over, I'd probably call the book Winning.
Okay.
Because that was a phrase me and my mates used to use when we were kids. When we met each other, you're winning. Which has kind of gone out of fashion. But I love the word winning because it's a verb, it's a doing thing, whereas win is a noun, it's a name of something. So if I had to do over, I'd probably call it winning.
Right.
But at the moment, so maybe win 2 will be called winning. Watch out for it.
Poor Aaron had to listen to me say this about 10 times the way out. Win: Proven Strategies for Success in Sport, Mental Health and Life. No, that's not it. Say it again.
Yeah.
It was like we nearly turned into the life of Brian. The Judeans, people fronted the people's front of Judea. I'm like, oh, fuck. And he goes, you're making balls of this when we get out here. No, I won't.
You did it well. You did it well. So it's a big, long title. But
it's brilliant.
And actually, one of the things about the title was the word proven. Because, often when you use that word, you've got to watch out. Like, is it proven? And I stuck to my guns to say it was proven because of all the people we interviewed. They were the ones who used these mental skills, and they're very successful in using these mental skills. So in my book, they proved it, or they are still proving it. So that's how I got that word in there, proven.
Yeah, and I know people go on about research and all these analytical findings and all that, but anecdotal evidence and, practical proven skills are the way forward. People experience, the lived experience, and that's what's in this book.
Yeah, and it is very much the practical side. Can we use these skills?
Absolutely.
Can we actually integrate them into our everyday life to improve things? And the answer is yes, we can. And this has been proven by all of these fantastic sports people who have done this. They have brought these skills into their everyday life as part of their sport, but not just that, as part of their own sense of well-being and how they are in the world and the kind of things that they want to achieve. So a lot of the stuff in the book is very practical for that reason.
Yeah, and that's what I probably liked about it the most. It was very visual. It was jargon-free, very simplistic. It probably tells a lot about me. And it was just go-to, simplistic tools to use. And yeah, this is what I tried. This is what worked for me, and then you can give it a go. You know, it wasn't. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it wasn't like you were inventing the wheel again. And
Absolutely.
that's what I found when you done the talk out in the hospital. It made it all very normal and simplistic, and anyone can take it home and give it a crack.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest findings in, for example, resilience research is that actually the most resilient tools are the simplest.
Mm.
You know, don't overcomplicate it.
And that's what we do. Generally, we have a problem, and then all of a sudden it becomes a big monster with legs and teeth and arms and.
Absolutely. So we kind of make it bigger than it is. But if we get back to the very simple things, like, for example, we were talking just before we started about mindfulness and breathing, get back to just slowing down your breath. How simple is that? But that can actually physically change what's going on in your body, which will clear your mind. So we don't have to make it hard. And that's one of the purposes of the book, and also we were talking about it being an audio book. Make it even more simpler. You know, listen to it. You don't, people are time poor. If you can get the book, I love books myself because I'm a bit tactile. But if you can't get the book, listen to it because it's only about 6 or 8 hours long. And you can do that in the car.
I went and bought the book, but then I realised you had talked in the hospital and you had said you had it on the Audible and you really enjoyed it. And that had slipped down my mind to get one of the girls on the job remind me, and I was like, oh, you numpty. So now I have the book and the Audible, so I was able to use that for taking me notes and then the Audible for listening to it. And I added up really,
Yeah, so I'm pleased you paid for it twice.
Yeah, that's all about.
But one of the beauties...
It's coming out of Aaron's with us again today. It's coming out of his wages.
I feel guilty now.
Yeah.
But one of the lovely things about the book we were talking about is the symbol, which doesn't quite come across on the audio. The active reflection symbol, the Celtic symbol, that's in the book, and I'm really pleased that's there. I had to fight for that to get in there.
Yeah.
So that's one of the beauties of reading it.
We'll get on to that. Do you know, I'd love you to start us off, and I thought it was brilliant when you started the talk in the hospital was, what's your mission in life?
Yeah, I talk, whenever I give a talk, I talk about my mission, and it's something I've kind of sat with for some time. It's upon reflection, it's why I became a psychotherapist in the first place. But sometimes you have to sit down and kind of piece it together and write your own sentences to actually what are you going to do with your time on this planet. And I realized, my mission is to influence and reduce the effects of anxiety and depression globally, because they're getting way out of hand. It's touching all nations. It's not, we're here in Ireland and Dublin, but it's all over the world. And it's one of the reasons I wrote the book, because as a psychotherapist, and I love being a psychotherapist, and I love people coming and talking with me and working through problems and finding solutions and just sharing themselves and me sharing myself with them. But I realize as a psychotherapist, I'm not going to affect the world globally if I'm just doing it one-on-one, 5, 6 clients a day, 5 days a week. They're not huge numbers.
Yeah. So
if I'm actually going to go out and influence what's going on in the world, I have to have a broader kind of reach. And that's why I wrote the book, was so more people can read it, more people can listen to it, more people can integrate these skills into their everyday life and go back like a resource. I mean, the beauty about having the book is you can go back, in a year's time, that something might pop into your head and go, Jesus, what's going on? And oh yeah, what was that thing I read? Boof, and you go back to page 60 and read it again. So I'm very pleased it's there. It was a bit of a kind of a bucket list I had, that I hadn't wanted to write a book. There's a few more books in me. The audio was a surprise. That really pleased me. And I talk about it at the workshops too, how much you can develop in a lifetime, because I had dyslexia when I was a kid.
Really?
So reading out loud in class was just not good.
Yeah.
The anxiety, the sweats, the blurriness, the stumbling over the words because I'd see the letters backwards. So it would really freak me out. So here I am years later being asked to do an audio book.
Wow.
Which took about 4 days. Now, the day one challenged me, and I had to use a lot of skills in the book just to calm myself, just to see my own words, really, but just to work it through. But by the end of it, I loved it. I'd love to do another one.
Deadly.
Yeah, deadly.
Oh, I thought it was fantastic. I loved it. What was your life that led you up to psychotherapy? Give us a little background to that. What brought you that direction?
Yeah, I mean, I'm born here in Dublin. I was Dundrum, pretty much, is where I grew up in Stepaside. And in school, I didn't excel in any way. I think probably because of dyslexia, but there were certain things that I was interested in. But as a teenager, I think I discovered philosophy, and I just started reading little bits about humans. You know, who are we? Where do we belong in this big world? And then when I came to do my leaving cert, I hadn't realised, but about second or third day in choice was a course in philosophy. And I got enough points for that, and it just bumped me up. And all of a sudden I said, oh gosh, I'm doing 2 years of philosophy. Great. I hadn't kind of thought about it, but I loved it because it was about finding out about humans and history and all this kind of great stuff. Now, as part of that course, they had a semester in psychoanalysis, and I loved the reading for that, and I kind of excelled in that class, and partly because of the tutor, I think as well. And I finished, and he said, "Look, you're really good. We've just set up a 3-year psychoanalysis degree. Would you be interested? It'd be like the second year going through it." And I said, "Sure." Now, of course, I hadn't any grand plan in terms of what I was going to do with philosophy and psychoanalysis. I was just really interested in these great writers and how they were exploring the human experience or the human condition, some people call it, and how we get on and when we don't get on and when things don't go well.
Yeah.
Which has been happening for as long as we've been alive as humans. So I did the psychoanalysis and loved it, and then I took off to New Zealand actually back in the year 2000. And while I was over there, I didn't work in the field yet. I was just more interested in the study. And when I was over there in Wellington, New Zealand, there was a big community in transactional analysis, which is
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
As a child, parent, and adult.
Correct.
Isn't that the tree? Yeah, I love it.
Pack model, and I love it too, because one of the reasons you were saying about the book, some of the stuff that I did with the psychoanalysis was tough reading.
Yeah.
And tough to kind of transfer to other people, the information, because it was originally mostly written in German, which doesn't translate overly well.
Yeah. Lost in translation.
Some of it is. So I said, oh yeah, no, I want to study TA, and as part of TA in Wellington for the 4-year course, I had to see clients. I had to do my own therapy first, or as part of it, individual and group therapy, and then I had to see clients. So that gave me the big push to really get into becoming a therapist, just to pass that course and never look back. So I started slowly with a couple of clients, and then built up a practice and finished my day job and swapped over, because I was a manager as well at the same time, a corporate manager, and then just drove the psychotherapy side.
Brilliant.
And I've been doing that for about 20 years now. Hard to tell, eh?
How long are you back in Ireland now?
Only just clicked over a year. So we had about 16 and a half years in New Zealand, then about a year and a half little adventure in Sweden, which is where I predominantly wrote the book, was in Sweden, on this great little house, and it was snowing.
So you had a little writer's block, did you? Did you go off and find yourself in isolation? And
No, I have a friend who does that. It goes to a caravan. Whenever he wants to write, he takes off to a caravan.
Yeah,
and
I know people that do that.
Yeah, no, I could live with that. I could do that as well. But no, part of the deal was I took some time off work to write the book and take care of the kids while we were in Sweden, while my wife, one of her big dreams was to work for Spotify. And so when we were heading back to Europe, she applied to Spotify, and they hired her and they relocated her. So she was living her dream. So I said, I'll take care of the kids because it's a different culture. The Swedes are great at English, but it is Sweden, so it's a different language.
Yeah, of course.
So I said, I'd take a year out, mind the kids, write the book. And that's what I did, and I loved it. And I had this picture, funny enough, when I was thinking about writing a book many years ago. I think it had to do with I don't know if you remember Misery. Do you remember there was a book, Stephen King book called Misery, and there's a great movie about
broke
it.
your man's legs in the bed.
Yeah, pretty
that's
gruesome.
all I remember. Yeah.
But I had the poster for that is snowy, and for some reason I had it in my head that I'd love to write a book in a place where there's snow, and then it ended up exactly that. I finished the book and I looked outside and it was snowing like heaps, because snows a lot in Sweden.
Jesus.
And that was an indication. I'm on the right track here. If you think about mission, I said, I'm on the right. The universe is telling me I'm on the right track here.
Oh, no, you just talked about that earlier. That must be a sign, and I'm all about those.
Yeah,
Whether
yeah.
I've forever seen numbers 111, 222, 333, or things will pop up. Like things that are related to something else. I'm all about like affirmations and being on the right path.
Yeah, I think every now and again we do get a few little signals
100%.
to let us know that we are, and also some that let us know that we're not. And
Yeah.
often, this is where a lot of anxiety and depression come from, which is that we're not on the right track. Actually, our insides are telling us,
and we're fighting against that.
Well, it's giving us a bit of a clue. We may be fighting against it, or we just don't know a way out.
Okay.
So I mean, this is what I do, as a therapist. When people talk to me about what's been going on to this point, often it's energy. We'll talk, I think, a little bit about that. That's stuck, and it's been played over and over and over again in the same way. So how do we create a different avenue for that energy to come out? And I speak about it in the book often. Through, it doesn't even take that long, through some therapeutic sessions, you can free up a heap of energy to make some great decisions, which can lead to massive things.
Absolutely.
The Irish phrase massive, it can lead to massive as in great, but also massive as in take you on a journey.
Massive is not just beautiful, massive, so no, she's massive.
Yeah.
That means she's gorgeous. Also, massive means gigantic.
Oh, great, too. Massive means just really
bleeding
solid.
deadly. Since you've been back in Ireland, what's the state of play as regards to wellness and all? Where are we at with that, really? What's your thoughts?
To a degree, struggling. The numbers are there. 1 in 6 people suffer from depression annually here in Ireland, and 1 in 4 of us will suffer from a mental health illness in our lifetime. Now that's not unusual because we're actually living longer, which is a good thing. We're getting about 2.5 healthy years every decade. I think it's clocking up. So we're living an awful lot longer than our parents or grandparents and previous generations. But it means we bump up against a lot of stuff in our journey, and things are moving quite rapidly. I mean, I just did a talk to you today, and if you think about this year, it's the 50th anniversary of landing on the moon.
Wow.
Now, when we landed on the moon, there was 3 billion people in the world, isn't it? We're now clocking over 9 billion. So in 50 years, we've like tripled. Now, that's a lot happening on this planet. And the internet, I think the internet's probably only 20 years old.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, so we take it for granted, but there was a time when there wasn't the internet and there wasn't all this stimulus. So we're getting a lot coming at us. Some of it great stuff, some of it not. Some of it, there's some stuff coming out about social media, which is not so great, in Facebook. But if we track back to here in Ireland, there's areas where we're struggling. Young people are struggling. For sure, the anxiety levels in young people are going higher, and it's starting at a younger age than before. So there's young 9-year-olds, 8-9-year-olds talking about feeling very
Why
anxious.
is that? Is it because we're using the language around them? Is it because they're exposed, or is it because I know there's not one reason for any?
Multiple factors.
Multiple factors.
But to a degree, you're right. We're using the word anxiety not correctly. It's like a little bit of a catch-all when it might actually be excessive worry. We're saying anxiety, like we say stress. When there's lots of good stress. So we use it. Is it good or bad stress? Which kind of stress you're talking about? But in general, the pace of life is getting faster. We're spending a lot of time in a very sedentary way. Like we're sitting for long periods in transport, or when we get to work. So we're not as fit as we used to be. We have to make an effort to get fit, if that makes sense. And again, our diets change. So there's multiple factors coming in globally. So it's not an Irish thing.
No.
But in the UK, I think about 40% of the GP consultations are mental health related. Here in Ireland, it's a bit better. It's 20%. But it's still, quite high for, in theory, we're doing well economically, and, most of us are not in major needs of stuff, but we're still psychologically struggling. So there's a curious thing.
Yeah. I love the little exercise that you done in the job that day when you got them. You done the stress exercise. What did you say? You were going to make them sing, or what was it?
And I don't know if we can give my secrets away because.
Oh, is that like? Will I have to cut that out, Aaron?
No, not at all. So
18 minutes, 23 seconds.
No. One of the things I like to do is when we're talking about stress, it's good to actually feel it.
Oh.
I put my hand here because one of the places you feel is when your heart rate goes up.
Yeah.
So sometimes I ask people, surprise them by saying, I'm going to pick on somebody to sing a song. Now, in an instant, by me saying that, stress chemicals will flood people's system. Their heart rate would go up. They might freeze. They might look down. They might want to get out of I want to get out of this room. I never said I was going to sing. But I don't. I don't make them sing. But I'm showing them how quickly.
I would have liked seeing that massacre.
Well, I did one in
stampede out the door.
In another organisation, and they gave out to me for not letting them sing.
Oh yeah, so, I was like, I wanted to see if you would have them singing. Couple of Mac the Knife fans, I'd say.
Well, again, you do this in different cultures, like the Ireland. In Ireland, we've got great singers, and we like a bit of crack.
Yeah,
New Zealand's a bit more reserved. You know what I mean? So they may not sing, and they might, but they'll still probably get the same reactions. Because you've been called on in a public arena to do something. You might be picked on. So both heart rate goes up, and they feel butterflies, and they sweat and stuff like that. But that's natural, and that's supposed to happen. That's why I do it. And those chemicals and that energy can be very, very useful if we know what to do with it, as opposed to about getting overwhelmed or shrunk by it.
It's like when I came in here, I was absolutely terrified. I get really stressed and I get really anxious. Well, not stressed, sorry. I get really nervous, and because there's so much external things or things I have to do, and they're all coming together. But then I also get excited because the bigger pictures, I want to do the interview and have the chats with someone.
Exactly. And fear and excitement, they're very similar chemicals going on in the body. Some people love roller coasters and the idea of going on a roller coaster. Some people go, no way. The idea just freaks them out. It's the same chemicals, but it's about figuring out how you want to be with that. Like you were saying, I mean, you're here because you want to do it.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to the fear making you stay away. And for lots of people, the fear makes them stay away from doing fantastic things, and they might miss out on an awful lot. So part of what I teach in some of the exercises is how to recognize those feelings, those physiological sensations, those thoughts, and change them. Improve them for the better, so you can get more out of yourself. And believe me, I've worked with lots of athletes and elite sports teams. You're supposed to get those butterflies, you're supposed to get, the juices going. And if you're not, then actually you're not up for the challenge.
Yeah.
So if they're not there, there'll be a question mark.
Absolutely. You used a great quote in the presentation as well. What's stress?
Yeah.
Can you share that with us? You said to me, you explain what stress is. It was a great quote. I can't remember what it was. I meant to write it down. I have it here. Talk about the stress quote. Do you not remember it? I had the notes. Explain what stress is then. That'll do.
Well, there's three different types of stress.
Cool.
Is what I talk about. So again, it's a little bit more complex than what we use as the word stress. So stress, there's common everyday stressors. So when we wake up, you wake up into money is part of the world now. So there's bills and mortgages and stuff like that. They shouldn't be a surprise. They're an everyday stress. Traffic, the weather can be a form of stress, but we need the weather. We need it to rain. We need sunny days too. So these are common everyday stresses. They shouldn't be a surprise. Then there's distress, and distress is not good stress in any way. It's when there's a lot of stressors externally and internally, because we can kind of stress ourselves out by how we're thinking. When too many of these stressors build up in our system physiologically, we move into distress, and distress severely affects our performance and severely affects our mental health and our well-being. And then the third one's eustress. A lot of people don't know about eustress, which is you is Greek for well or good, so EU stress. So good stress is when we set ourselves a challenge, not because we have to, but because we want to. So climbing a mountain, or doing a marathon, or learning to sing, or doing this. This is eustress for you. You're not. This is not your primary job, so you're putting time and effort. You're doing it in the evening. You have to go back and cook. So that's eustress because you really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Hobbies. I talk about hobbies. Remember, people used to have hobbies, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
It's kind of gone by the wayside, but that was eustress. It was very, very good for us, and we're not doing enough of it because that kind of energy kind of distracts our mind from the everyday kind of noise and puts us in a good space, and often works different parts of our brain that we're not normally using, or our body, if you think about getting fit to climb a mountain. So the three different types of stress, and we need to have, the stress is always there. We want to stay away from distress and know what the signs and symptoms are, and then eustress, we need to factor some of that in. Choir singing, by the way, it turns out is a brilliant form of eustress.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're doing a very straightforward kind of motion, singing, and usually it's not overly complex words, but you're also doing it in a group. So it's teamwork. Yeah, and then often they're
safe in packs.
Well, that as well. And often there's like a competition. So you go and do these practices to go and do it live in front of somebody, or trying to win a competition. So it's a brilliant form of eustress, choir singing.
Yeah. As you said, stress is natural. We need stress. We want to finish an assignment for college. That's not to psychiatrist today, but deadlines. If you didn't have it, you wouldn't get the...
You wouldn't do as much.
Yeah.
You need them to push against.
Yeah.
Become quite efficient, when the deadline's going to fall.
Yeah. And we need it, but people just have this binary effect that stress is a bad thing, and I don't even want it in my life at all. And they try to eliminate it then through drink, drugs, whatever.
Yeah. I
mean, it's understanding that it's...
If you think about, and we're lucky now at the moment that unemployment is very, very low, but if you think about countries where unemployment is very, very high, I mean, they may not be getting a lot of that eustress, that kind of challenges themselves because they haven't got a very structured day-to-day thing to go to with deadlines. So that can severely affect their mental health because what they're doing is sitting around a lot, not intentionally, but sometimes we need other people to give us deadlines. Yeah. As we do in work,
of course, yeah.
So it's very good to create our own and then have some for us to work towards. One of the challenges, and I talk about this in the sessions, is if too many deadlines fall at the same time, that's a watch out. That can push us over into distress.
Too many plates spinning at once.
That's right. So we've just got to watch it. We've got to pace ourselves and use some of these skills.
And you talk about that in the book, warning signs and roadblocks. Talk us a little bit about that.
Oh, well, we're always communicating. The basis of transactional analysis, for example, is figuring out what we're saying, whether it's verbally or physiologically. There's always communication going on in our body, and same with other people. So you and I are communicating there verbally with eye contact and with our body behaviorally, but people are communicating even though they might not be saying anything. So if somebody comes in, you can tell pretty quick their mood if you're tuned into it.
Are you tuned into that? Or did you always have that as a child? Because I think I've got a good innate, I can pick danger because it's usually it's a protection mechanism. It's trying to keep us safe. So when someone comes in the room, we can suss out whether it's tension or it's happiness. Do you have that?
I think some people are better at it than others. I mean, this is like EQ, emotional intelligence, or empathy skills. So a lot of young kids can get a sense of how mom or dad feel without them actually saying it.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. So you just get a sense, some kids are great at going and checking a mom or dad if they're looking a bit low. How are you okay? Can I do anything for you? They just get this sense in themselves, and we now know there's certain things called mirror neurons that go on in our brain, which means we're actually sensing what's going on in somebody else's brain to a certain degree. And some people are more tuned to that than others. As a therapist, you work on that attunement, so you just become better at it. It's like working any muscle. So that's what a lot of therapists do, is they work that particular muscle, the empathy skill muscle, so they can pick up subtleties and pick it up a bit more quicker about how somebody's feeling.
The language that they use. And
they might invite certain feelings as well.
The invitations.
Yeah, but we can certainly all do it. But certainly with warning signs, and I talk about this a lot, if you know your warning signs, then that's the good thing to listen to because it keeps you away from distress. And that was when you kind of things are hiding up. Do you know what I mean? If you have close friends or colleagues who know your warning signs as well, if you share them, they can help you. Or vice versa. If you know their warning signs and you see, Mary's very, very quiet today. What's going on? Mary's normally not like that. How's Mary? Let's go for a walk with Mary. Warning signs are great because the more you know, the more you have to share them, the more you can pick up on what's going on in somebody's life and help them where possible.
Brilliant. You talk a lot in the book about mental skills. I'd like you to talk about that. The one I really loved and I picked up on it was the one that Brent says was where the mind goes, the body flows.
Yeah.
I thought that was absolutely fantastic, and I probably plagiarised the shit out of it the last few weeks.
Well, in fairness, Brent stole that from me.
Ah, Bren. So there's a bit of plagiarism going on left, right, and centre here, isn't there? So you own it.
We're good friends. Yeah, that's one of mine. But we're good friends. So
Right,
I mean, and at the end of the day, it's all about getting it out there.
Yeah.
It's about getting this stuff out there. I often hear Brent on the radio talking about some of the stories that I told him when I was working with the All Black fellas that he's kind of made his own. But again, as long as it's getting the word out there, that's most important. You know, and Brent's a great guy because he talks a lot about his mental health issues. And
he's leading from the front. He's a leader.
Absolutely. He does a lot in this space. So if we track back, so mental skills is a phrase that's been around sports for not too long, probably about a decade. There used to be a big focus on sports psychology and getting a sports psychologist in to teach a few things. But, you know, again, it's a case of making this as simple as possible. And what they found was there's certain common skills that sports people use over and over and over again to train their mind. So this is where the phrase came from, mental skills. It's just training your mind using a particular skill. It's like if you imagine learning to skip, you'd use certain muscles to learn to skip and practice, and you won't get it right all the time. But then I was watching a guy run down the street with a skipping rope the other day. I thought, fantastic, we should be able to do that. Yeah. But he's trained himself to be able to do that and it's become very fluid. So it's the same deal with the brain. There's certain skills or habits that we can practice, learn about, practice, and they become a skill that we can call on.
Yeah.
And particularly call on when we're getting more stressed and moving towards distress, or if we are facing into something like a stress challenge, you know, like giving a presentation or going and singing, you know, where we've said we're going to do it. You can use these skills there as well, you know, to calm your system. And there's some very quick and easy ones you can do. We'll probably talk about them, like grounding or centering. Reframing is looking at things in a different frame, putting in a different set of specs to see it differently, not negative or pessimistic, but optimistic and looking at what's possible.
Well, I use a thing called RAG, reframing, affirmations, and gratuity.
Fantastic.
Every day, it's my go-to thing now, you know.
So that's your mental skill.
Yeah, I reframe it, and this won't last. I've seen this before. This is a pattern of your behaviour. You know, I don't believe in my thoughts because they haven't served me well before. Unless in a creative and loving moment, I can trust them. But I'm in a state of fear, of anxiety. I was like, I can't trust this feeling. You're trying to lead me down a different path here.
Lovely.
And, you know, I reframe it. And then, you know, I always do affirmations. Fantastic. And then I think gratitude is fantastic, you know.
Oh, totally, absolutely, and it creates serotonin and dopamine in your body
100%.
instead of adrenaline and cortisol. So it actually helps your body readjust. You're doing another skill there. I don't know if you're saying it out loud or just in your head, called self-talk, what a lot of sports people do.
I do a lot of self-talk.
Yeah. We all do it, but the skill of self-talk is having your go-to conversations to make you feel better or get you out of a hole, or help you achieve better results, because it's not all about stuff going wrong. It's about also achieving greatness. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes we need to encourage ourselves to take that leap of faith, go there.
Yeah, the little percentage.
Yeah, and I imagine you did that as well. For example, with your very first podcast, I'm sure that was pretty nerve-wracking.
Oh, look, I just bought just a recorder. Like I didn't even know where podcast. Aaron was going for another podcast, and I said I'd done an interview. I said, I don't know where this thing goes. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, like, where is YouTube? Or where is iTunes thing? Is it up in the sky? Where does it go? And they went, are you for fucking real? And I just got a recorder, stuck it on the table.
Right.
But I just made it, what I done was like the self-talk. I just was having a downturn in my mental health. I was feeling down after breakup and all that. Yeah. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to make this year different to any other year. I'm going to look back and say it was difficult, but you done all right. And then I started writing everything down that I did that year, and always trying to do something new, whether we go to a yoga class or went to Thailand on my own, and went to whatever.
All these challenges you gave yourself.
Hippie calves or trendy yogas or something, just anything.
Just to
go.
Check it out and experience it, and experience yourself doing it.
Yeah, because I never done it, but I just and I went, no, this is working, or that's not working, and you just start adding a little bit of armory, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we learn through experience. you know. But we got to put ourselves into certain experiences to learn about ourselves, and it's easy to avoid. It's easy to self-talk our way out of it. But the skill of mental skill of self-talk is towards improving something. Yeah, it's towards making something um, growth worthy. So I talk in the book about a word I invented called potentializing.
Potentialize, yeah.
Yeah, because we hear a lot about potential. You
Mm.
know, he didn't reach his potential. They had great potential.
Pubs in Ireland are full of potential.
But again, it's a noun. We're trying to describe something as a solid thing, whereas potential is more about a doing thing in the moment. So potentializing becomes a verb. And at any moment, we can potentialize that moment. We can do whatever the heck we want with our energy. Often we talk ourselves out of it. You know, will I go for a walk? It's a bit boom. All of us, I'm talking myself out of it, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to, well, I can potentialize that moment by just going and do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just get up and do it.
Yeah.
By taking that energy and moving on. You know, by learning, by you know, furthering ourselves in the moment to improve whatever our situation is. That's potentializing. So it's making that in the moment split decision to do it, as opposed to not. And you made loads of them this year to achieve all the great
This
stuff.
year, last year, yeah. And one part of the book I absolutely love was we talked a little bit earlier was the Celtic symbol, and that comes out of self-reflection. And I love self-reflection. I love the fact that you had it in the book. And it was grand that I had the book and the audio. I was able to go to the book and see the symbol. I wanted to see it. I don't know why I wanted to see this. I thought it was because self-reflection is excellent.
Oh yeah.
You know, even like reflecting on what you did, whether you be in an argument with somebody, like just to analyze and write it down. Or
Yeah.
I love self-reflection.
Yeah, because you're getting to know yourself better.
Oh, 100%.
You know, we're all a work in progress.
Warts and all.
You know, ABCD, always be continuously developing, is the kind of motto for life.
Say that again, sorry.
ABCD, always be continuously developing.
Wow, I never heard that. That's brilliant.
I don't know if I made that.
We're going to plagiarize that.
I don't know if I made it or not.
That.
But it's true. We're all, you know, we're developing until the day we die. Right? Now we have some skin in the game there. We can choose to develop ourselves in different ways. You know, it's like putting fuel in the tank. You know, and push ourselves that way. So the Celtic symbol is, I must confess, I pinched it a little bit from one of my favorite books, The Power of Now, by Eckhart Tolle.
Oh,
he uses a different symbol.
I absolutely love him.
Yeah.
He was my savior in 2013, 14, and 15. I gobbled up all his videos and books.
Oh, brilliant guy. Really interesting. I mean, he had a tough time when he was younger. He was homeless for about 2 years.
What a story.
Oh, brilliant. But he did a lot of self-reflection. So I loved what he did in his book, and I thought, I haven't seen that before. It's a fantastic mechanism, and I want to do my version of that. So my version is I'm a Celt, I'm Irish, you know, all my lineage going right back is Irish. So the Celtic symbol that I used is a bit more complex. But I was at a workshop today, and somebody said, "Was there any questions?" And somebody then said, "Tell me about the Celtic symbol. Why did you pick that?" I thought, "Oh gosh, I've never been asked that before." But the three sides are the mind, body, and spirit, which is the three bits to ourselves.
Yeah.
But in the middle is a circle.
For anyone who wants to see it, it's in here.
Yeah. So the simple Celtic knot is the three corners: mind, body, spirit. But the more complex one has a circle running through it. And for me, the circle running through it is our experience. It's because that's unique to us. Nobody is like anybody else. You know, every experience they have is different to anybody else's. So they're completely unique. So your experience, your middle of that knot, has to do with you, and that's a great source of knowledge, and it's a great source of power. Actually, if you can tap into your own experience, like you were talking about through self-reflection. You know, why did I say that? You know, what was I thinking? What was going on for me when I did
Why
that?
am I feeling? You've had these feelings before. Can you trust them? Have they served you well? No, they probably haven't. This is born out of fear. If you had a drink now and you were calm, would you think like this? No, you wouldn't.
Beautiful.
You know, would you do this in a state of calm? Would you make this decision? No, I probably wouldn't. Then I don't know if I'll trust it.
Yeah, and therefore you'll make a decision maybe not to do
Yeah,
that.
I'll say no. I won't do it now. I'll make the decision when I'm calm.
Lovely, absolutely. So that process of self-reflection is tapping into your inner energy in a conscious way and listening to it, and then making some healthy decisions, I would say, based on that. And we can all do that. And I put it in the book to slow people down.
Love it.
I say at the beginning of the book, you know, this book might make you win the race, but it's not a race. You don't have to read the book like it's a race because you choose the book. You don't actually take it in. So read a bit, and if the symbol appears, put it down and reflect on what it means for you.
Yeah, I think it's excellent, and it's about taking that, as Edgar talks as well about, it's that pause,
Yeah,
it's that gap, and finding that space between your thoughts is it's very hard to, even that kind of, that's where the magic is, isn't it?
Absolutely, take that breath, and then take another one, and then take another one, and slow it down, because life is not a race. We're not. There's no end in sight to say, "Oh, I've won." It's all about how we're using our energy and tapping into it, and what we're doing in the world, and what we're doing in our relationships, and what can I bring. But that takes a little bit of time to figure out.
Yeah, and that kind of, it's lovely. It leads me on to my next question is, you had in the book is an internal reason. When you can tap into that, what is your internal reason? What's your, as you say, what's the 4Ds, which I thought was brilliant.
Yeah. So the first one being drive. It's a D for drive, which is, drive is just energy. If you imagine in a car, you can get into a car, but you're not going to go in until you put your foot on the pedal, to make it go. So same deal with us. So, you can tap into your drive, or you can just kind of let yourself go on and on and on and be driven in a way that's not very self-reflective. And therefore you might not get to where you want to get to. Yeah. So the second one is direction. So if you got the drive and you know how to tap into that, and I talk a little bit about that in the book. Well, where are you going? What's your direction? And again, I created the 4Ds, but it's what I saw that lots of sports people do, lots of successful people do. They have goals. They do find a direction. They do figure out what they want to achieve this year or next week or in their lifetime. Yeah, they might write them down or put them up, and they're working towards that, so they have direction. Because if you don't have a direction, you can go all over the shop.
What did you say in the book? I think it's from Alice in Wonderland. A man that doesn't know where he's going will always find his way.
Yeah. Well, any way will do. What that one stands for.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, because you just.
Is it from Alice in Wonderland?
It is. Yeah. But that's what it is. If we don't pick a direction, we'll go somewhere. But it could be anywhere. As opposed to if you're a bit more conscious about it, then you can achieve more stuff and be satisfied with that. Then the third D is determination. That's what I came across. Again, military and sports and stuff like that is that don't give up. Don't give up on your goal. Whether it's getting fitter or going to Thailand or checking out that yoga, don't give up on that. Just try it.
It's the end goal, isn't it? It's planting your flag, having your vision. I love that about the book as well. There was loads of visualization. Bren talked about it in the start. Yeah. That really hooked me straight away.
Great.
Was this visualization he had already planned. And then I felt when the doubts and fear and the overthinking came along, it clouded the vision. And then you start to lose it, then, don't you?
Yeah. And then how do you get back to it? That's the calling. Come back to your direction. Come back to what you're trying to achieve and get yourself back there. Brent talks about, when he suffers majorly from anxiety and he calls it the Gatling gun in his head when he gets all these negative thoughts just smashing into him. But he knows now it's going to go away because he's experienced it so many times. He knows it's going to go away.
I was talking to somebody today about that. I said the goals, they just will not stay. And I used to fear that when it came out. Oh, here we go again. This is going to start forever. And it's that fear, isn't it? That won't go.
Yeah. And we forget that actually one guarantee is change. Everything changes. That's a guarantee in life. It's never going to stay the same.
But we get catastrophic, don't we? Going, it's going to be like this forever, and I'm stuck like this.
What if?
My auntie had balls for my uncle. You've interviewed a lot of really top sports people. Were they quite generous with their time? How did you pull that together? You had the likes of Gerald O'Rourke, Ken O'Doherty.
Lots of
amazing
Ronan O'Gara, his mate Dan Carter, Conrad Smith, who's overdoing a bit here. Lots of rugby, lots of coaches, lots of David Gillick. Really fantastic, generous sports people. None of them got paid. We told them what the purpose of the book was. It's around mental health and it's around success and teaching these skills. And they just opened up, and some of them opened up tremendously. I'd asked them, what does winning mean to you? What does success mean to you? How do you handle disappointment? Because that's part of the gig. What do you do when you're feeling low, like you've lost and you're in the hotel room by yourself and the stuff you're running, this stuff through your head? How do you get out of it? And they shared a lot, and I admire that about everybody in the book, was their willingness to share and open up and be human, and give away a few of their secrets as well. I mean, that what works for them. You know what I mean? Because they're still competing. You know, there's other people might read who are competing against them.
They're still in the game.
Still in the game, but you know, they did it for good reasons. And my job was to take some of what they said and break it down into how can you use this tomorrow or in an hour. You know, what are they talking about when they talk about goal setting or perspective thinking or reframing or grounding, or you know, there's a stack of them. How can you make that yours? That was my job, really.
And I know there's some of the stuff that you talk about in the book, and the sports people talk about in the book, are nothing, you know, scientific, and you know, it's not full of jargon. It's very simplistic. But to hear from them, it just gives it a little more weight, doesn't it? It gets people like they have this magic secret, but yeah, what they're saying is just simplistic, and then you can apply it. Yeah. Did you find that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, these guys have proved the pudding, guys. I use guys as in everybody. It's not a male term.
Yeah.
You know, how do you handle yourself when you're taking that final kick before the whistle goes and millions of people are watching you, and it's, you know, it's a win-lose type situation. How do you manage yourself? What goes through your head? What goes through your body? How do you cool yourself down? One of the guys you work with, what is it yourself? Oh, it's not. It's another organisation. Dean Rock, who's
Dublin, was he?
Absolutely. He's taken lots of major kicks, and he loves it. So that's a reframe. So love the pressure. You know, that's a fantastic reframe. It's his job. So of course he wants to do it.
Fabulous.
I heard a great reframe the other day. Dame Judi Dench. You know Dame Judi, fantastic actress.
Yeah.
And loads of stuff. But she was sitting around with another dame, Maggie Smith, and they were talking about it, and they were talking about fear, you know, like in terms of performance. And her what she said was, "Oh, I love fear. Fear is fuel." And I thought, "Oh, hello, that's a fantastic reframe."
Okay.
She says, "Oh, I need fear to get me out there, to get me acting."
Yeah.
You know, she feels it. You know, obviously you know, the nerves and stuff, but fear is fuel.
Yeah, and I use it when I'm writing discharge reports, you know, and I used to try start them months before, and I'd meander through them, I'll start tomorrow, but then I left it a week or two before I had to do it, and the fear of not having it done.
That's great.
I can't let that be happening. And then I'm bum, and I just Now we're doing the crane. I still haven't done the LMX or whatever you do, but now I'm like.
But then the fear of letting somebody down, or not getting the job done, that's a motivator.
My team, I'll be like, I'll be seeing that it's not out on time. We have to have a discharge out on a certain date, and boom, boom, boom. So you can use the fear then to motivate you.
Yeah, and it's about mental skills, about knowing how to do that. Because, for example, it's nice to be punctual, but there's some people who fear ever being late. Eat them up, like that. I can't ever be late. Well, that's not a good motivation. Yeah. So it's nice to be punctual, but it's not the end of the world if you don't make it on time.
No.
You know what I mean? So give yourself a break. You know, there's lots of stuff that can happen.
Yeah.
So it's about balance. You know, using it when you need it, and then turning it off when you don't need it, or soothing yourself, bringing it down.
Yeah, I think I've managed that over the years, but it took me a bit of work. You've been in this industry a long time, and you've met all these people, and you've wrote the books. So obviously, your knowledge is gigantic, huge, massive. Was there any extra learning from it? What extra stuff did you pick up that you did? You know, did you ever have I didn't know that, or aha moments, or what was the extra?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Sure. I still do it. Like I watch Netflix, and the stuff that I pick up.
I love it.
When you hear somebody say something like that gives you an insight to what's going through their mind, that allows them to do kind of extraordinary things. I'm always learning about myself. Again, ABCD, I'll always be developing. So we're all a work in progress. We're all a painting that's not finished until the end. Yeah. We have some control over that, and then sometimes we don't. There's some stuff that happens in life that's completely out of our control that we can't influence, and then there's some stuff we can. So, you know, part of my practice is self-reflection. You know, it's part of being a therapist. It's part of working with people and respecting humanity, me being part of that, being human too, so not being too hard on myself.
Mm.
So I'm always learning, and humans are fascinating. Let's face it, we're complex, the most complex animal that exists. So we're fascinating what we can get up to, and also brilliant.
Yeah.
So one of the learnings before I worked with the elite sports people, I used to think they're mad. Some of them are mad in terms of what they put their body through.
Yeah.
I think, what are you doing? Do you know what I mean? The smashes, the big hits, or they go on, they do what we would think is risky things. But actually, what I've come to one of the big aha moments working with lots of sports people is they're pushing the boundaries. They're living in a world of eustress because every day they take on the challenge. They train hard and they look forward to the tests at the end of the week. Not to see who's going to win and lose. That's only part of it, but to see how well they're going to perform, how they're going to show up. Mm. And I realize, there are people out there who are pushing the boundaries of physicality, of psychology, of science and medicine, stuff like that. And one of the big aha moments was actually what they're doing is very healthy. My frame of reference was the one that was wrong. I was thinking there was something wrong with them.
Yeah.
But that had said more about me than them. So I admire what they do because they in all sports, because it's a real commitment. It's a real commitment what they go through, and they love it for the most part. And part of the having worked with lots of people who moved into retirement, for example, from sports, or had to finish early because of injury, which is very very difficult. A lot of them look back and it's not the awards, medals and stuff they won, or the cups. It was sharing the experience with their pals, being part of a team, and the memories they created with their friends, effectively.
And I'm sure that comes back around them when they come into retirement. That loss of social connection, that loss of identity, that association.
Well, if it has to stop quickly, definitely. But again,
taper out.
A lot of these teammates and individual players, like tennis players and stuff like that, they form close relationships that stick with for life. They each know it's a difficult journey to be a sports person, so they have empathy for each other. So they're good people to turn and talk to later on in life too.
Yeah, brilliant. We touched a bit on it earlier, energy shifting. Could we go back and talk a little about that? Like the stuff we talked, the physical, the social connection, the grounding.
Yeah. So one of the techniques that I'm a big advocate for is understanding that any stress in the body is just energy. It's just, we're a biochemical factory, so we're just producing chemicals all the time. And chemicals like adrenaline, cortisol will kind of speed up aspects of our body. And then sometimes energy can get stuck in different parts of our body, different parts of muscles, and certainly can get stuck in our brain, where we overthink, and thoughts themselves are just energy, just synapses shooting off, neurons. And if we get stuck in our head, we don't have to stay there, right? We can use other techniques like CBT around changing our thought patterns or self-talk or whatever it might be. But sometimes we that doesn't work because we're using thinking to combat thinking.
You're trying to think our way out of a problem, and that has been the problem. Brought us to overthinking.
Or with mindfulness as well, we might be using a different part of our brain to view the thoughts in a different way to let them go. But we're still using our brain to a certain degree. We don't have to. We can put our energy somewhere else. We can put it, and I talk about this, sending energy to your feet, sending energy to your big toe, which is the longest neuron in the body, and just spending time there, connecting with, feeling into, talking to a certain degree, your feet. And all of a sudden, what you'll find is the energy will shift down there, blood will go down there, your feet will get hotter and more sweaty, and your mind will start to clear and your system will start to cool down a bit. Because it's now not being agitated up here, it's now gone somewhere else, consciously. And the other part of the body is feeling pretty good. So naturally our breathing starts to cool down and slow down. I used to, that's a grounding technique, which is shifting energy into your feet. With some of the sports people, they may not have time to get into their feet too quickly, or they might have not enough time to get into their feet and spend a bit of time there. But if they're noticing they're being distracted, their head is going, with negative self-talk, clap your hands 3 times loudly, right? And then feel the sting.
Right.
Just feel the minor pain and what that feels like. That's just energy shifting, right? And that will move away, and that's a trigger technique.
With the sensations, isn't it?
Exactly. I talk, people struggle with presentations because they're, a lot of the action glands in the head they are overworrying or going blank and freezing up and stuff like that. So what I say sometimes is bring something that you can have in your hand that when you press it, you'll feel minor pain, right? Nothing serious, but that you can do that. I know you're doing that and have trained that to help you relax.
Yeah.
It could be the top of a pen.
I've seen someone putting, like a hairband on and
just
pulling
do
it
a
elastic.
Snap. Absolutely, that's very common. So stuff like that. I used to, back in the day when I was doing big presentations, look around and find a small stone, and then I just have it here and I just push in when I felt my heart rate going up. And I'll have trained for when I feel that sensation, I want the opposite to happen.
Okay.
I want my heart rate to go down. I want to breathe more slowly.
Fantastic.
Just by doing that. Anybody can do it again, but it's just a little bit of training and a bit of conscious practice.
Brilliant. And it was so, we just talked about science just before you had come into that room. I had been working with the trainees in the hospital. We had our shoes and stockings off and we were doing grounding.
Yeah.
And you started talking about grounding. I was like, is this a wind up? I was like, this is fantastic,
Brilliant.
It really kind of consolidated. Like, it's just, I loved it, I love meditation.
Absolutely.
And you talk about that. And another thing I loved about when you done that talk was you didn't bang the exercise drum. I'm sports science is my background, but it's not the great white hope that everyone goes on about. It's all about the ducks in a row that I say to people. But it was lovely that you said that. It's not an easy one. Go out and exercise, because it might not work for you.
No, and it can scare some people.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? Even just getting into the gear to go out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the lycra. There's a spandex.
No one wants to see me in lycra. I try.
It can put people off, and actually we can do exercise at any time.
Yeah.
Like in our house.
Yeah, absolutely.
Potentialize the moment. Get up and just jump around. Dance is another great form of exercise.
Yeah.
Belting out a song is a type of exercise. But it's good to have something scheduled into our diaries on a regular basis if we can, because we're so time poor, we get so busy, we can neglect the physical side of ourselves. But as you say, it's only one part.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love that you talk about meditation. Do you think we're getting a shift in Irish culture, in the world, the kind of spiritual conscious movement? Is it more accepted? I think it is. Meditation, mindfulness. We talked earlier.
The Western version of it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
that's exactly. They've been doing it eons.
Yeah. So even the word spirituality, we're able to use more fluidly than we would previously. Previously, we'd talk about religions.
Yeah.
And not use the higher level word of spirituality. Now we all kind of have a sense of what it means, and we can all have our own personal spirituality and meditation. Again, I see meditation as a mental skill. It's something that you can learn and practice and habitualize as something you can go to. So it doesn't have to have the spiritual side, but it can also. If you look at where it comes from, in terms of, say, mindfulness coming from, or mindful awareness coming from Buddhism, there's a whole lot of stuff behind that, which is also very interesting in terms of how you want to be in the world. Not just how you want to cool down your system, but how you want to be as a person, and how you want to contribute to society.
A spiritual purpose, what you want, type of person you want to be, morally, spiritually. Yeah, it's not just the meditation, there's a whole kind of lifestyle element to it, which I try to adapt.
But even purpose itself doesn't have to be spiritual. We can find our purpose, like mission, and our values.
Be a nice person. Be kind to people. Be kind to yourself.
That can be a mission or a purpose, because sometimes we can forget to do that. So we need to bring ourselves back to doing that. So, but a lot of stuff is coming out about meditation. That's very good.
I love Metta meditation, love and kindness meditation. Jack Cornfield listened a couple of years ago, and I was, visualize a person you love, like my daughters, I just like, wow, that hit me here, and I never got. I was like, wow, that's like it's kind of addictive.
Yeah.
I was going to do more of that.
In a good way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I wasn't on IV like taking
No,
mental
absolutely
after
no.
meditation. Yeah,
You know,
it's beautiful. Like it really
Yeah.
is. I mean, it really opened up my eyes. That's actually what I want. Me like love and kindness.
nice, fantastic. And your heart at that moment, your heart
Oh
probably
yeah,
would
oh
have expanded.
yeah. And I was, what's
The
going
blood
on
vessels
here?
going.
And I didn't have a drink. I was like, this is lovely.
It is, and it's about having some of this healthy and natural stuff to call it. I mean, most people, not most people, sorry, a lot of people, particularly here in Ireland, if you go back, you say the word meditation, it's like, oh, what? You know? Not knowing that actually when we're daydreaming, we're meditating.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's a form. When we're sunbathing, we're meditating. Because often we're very, very present. You're just hearing the noises. You've got your eyes closed. You can hear the noises around the water or the kids, or you can feel the sounds. You can feel the beads of sweat. That's a type of meditation because you're being very, very present.
Yeah.
So there's all different types of meditations, and it's as I say, it's different strokes for different folks.
Yeah. It's not all just in a lotus position. You know,
No, looking at an apple or a flame. You know.
Yeah.
You can find your own, or find a variety of your own, and play with them.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said earlier, when we talked about the book being simplistic, you know, visualization, jargon free, easy to do, was that your vision from the get go?
Yeah, had to be.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things I learned from being a transactional analyst, TA, which is one of the things in TA is if you can't explain it to a child, then you're not getting it right. Do you know, if it's too complex that a child doesn't understand it, then your communication is not right. So even though you might be bringing together some complex ideas, you got to get the language right so the other person absolutely understands it, and it goes into their frame of reference so they understand. Yeah, I know what you mean from my experience.
You remind me of my favourite lecturer, Jerry Colleran, when I studied microbiology. He explained to us about insulin and glucagon and all that in a song. I was like, this is a microbiologist, and 150 lads singing about insulin in, glucagon, and we were like, He explained a really difficult process through a little song and interpretation, and I was like, this guy's a legend. And I was looking at you up on in the podium, and I was thinking, he reminds me of someone, and I went, boom, that's who it was, because you were explaining something so that could be perceived as complex in a very take-home message way, you know. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's important because if it's too complex, some people will get it, and you'll turn a whole lot of people off. Yeah? And if my mission is to reach as many people as possible, I have to get that language as clean and clear as possible. Cool. And user friendly, actually.
Without stealing too much from the book, can you leave us with a couple of tips or things to do? I know we touched on meditation, strategies for winning against stress.
Winning against stress. Well, I mean, to a large degree, it's about understanding what's stressful for you. You know, I'm talking about the not good stress. Yeah, because there's a lot of great stress, like I was talking about eustress. So a big tip I would say to anybody is, when was the last time you had a hobby?
Yeah.
Find one, you know, and start to do that, because it'll make you feel an awful lot better. Yeah. If you're up for it, set yourself some challenges. You know, they don't have to be massive.
No,
you know what I mean?
Greatness doesn't have to be climbing Kilimanjaro.
No, absolutely. You know, for some people it might be as well.
Yeah.
Some people might go,
but it doesn't have to be. That doesn't need to be a metric system. Turning up is a success.
Absolutely. So I would say, you know, create a few goals that are going to challenge you, that have nothing to do with earning money or work or anything. It's personally for you, you know, that you can drive a bit more. Get to know your warning signs. The people around you will help. You know, like you know, my wife will know my warning signs long before I asked her what they were.
Yeah.
So you know, your friends are your advocates.
100%.
So if you want to know about what your warning signs are, and you'll only see so many of them, because you know I can't see.
We're quite repetitive. We're repetitive.
Exactly.
We do the same things.
Exactly. Get to know them, and I think probably the biggest tip would be active reflection. Actually, find a time in your day, or a couple of times in your day, just to chill out and reflect on yourself, where you are in the world, how's it going, what do you like. There's one particular one that what is it? what was his name? I think it's Daniel Goldstein. Is it Goldstein? I don't think I'm getting it right. He does the WWW exercise,
Okay.
which you can reflect on every night when you get into bed. What went well? Just ask yourself, what went well today?
Right.
And come up with 3 things. There'll be loads.
Let's go to bed on a positive, like, that's just setting the tone.
Yeah, and it's good energy.
Yeah,
you probably
good.
sleep better.
Yeah.
But the more you do it, the more you realise there's much more than 3. There's like loads of
you're
great
like,
stuff.
only 3.
But you tend to forget it. So WWW, what went well when you get into bed?
Brilliant.
Build that into your habit. Positive psychology right there.
Absolutely fantastic. Last question, last but not least, we're just on the hour and we'll get out of here. What's the one thing you would like people to take away from this interview after listening to you? Bum, bum, bum.
Wow, okay.
Yowzer.
A sense of the possibilities, right? Because if we're talking about energy, we're talking about being able to consciously shift energy. None of us knows what we're capable of, either physically or psychologically or emotionally. We just don't. We often limit ourselves. So if people want to take something away from this, is to know no matter what their situation, there's so much possibility available to tap into. And you start with yourself. Start with freeing up the energy in yourself to go and achieve lots of great stuff. But also that it's okay to go and talk to others to help you achieve that great stuff.
Yeah. Wow. Jason Brennan, thanks very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
You're more than welcome.
I urge people to go buy the book. Please go and buy it. Go on Audible, buy the book. We'll put the link to Audible and also on our show notes, won't we, Aaron? Aaron's social media, he'll plant us all over the place. He's been taking videos and pictures. So absolutely delighted every show. Thanks for your time.
I look forward
really
to seeing it, actually.
Deadly.